to another episode of Figures in Action. And today I bring you a project that I actually have been wanting to do since I started creating dials. A long time ago I saw a photographer had a dial that was really similar to this, with that kind of that slanted wall in the window, that attic type look. And so I've always wanted to do something like that, but you know, amongst the projects that come my way, that wasn't one of them, and I just little by little just ran out of time in terms of creating my own diorama. So was contacted by someone who in turn had sent me some reference pictures. Now when he sent me the reference pictures, the first thing that I saw, or he sent me like maybe 5 or 6 of them. First thing that the first one that I liked was a style that was real similar to this. I found out later on that it was a Sweeney Todd, or it was a room from, or I guess a barbershop from the Sweeney Todd movie. I didn't know that at the time. I just saw reference pictures of it, and a few people mentioned it. I went back and did the research, and yes, and it's in fact a Todd Sweeney. But the difference is, there's a couple differences. So first and foremost, the Todd Sweeney diorama had this kind of leaning a little more like that, so that the ceiling was literally like a strip. I wanted to do something different with the ceiling. As always, I'm really interested in always finding different angles and kind of taking one of these dials and using it as much as possible. So part of that is proper lighting. Natural lighting is always good, and in rooms like this especially, where if you can put this dial outside, or actually like set it in front of a window where you're getting that natural sunlight, it usually is a good look. So anyway, I was contacted and was very happy to work on this. So a couple different techniques that I used here that I had never used before, and I'll go over them really quickly. First and foremost, the floor. So generally, this is a true story. So you see all these grooves that kind of make that wood floor. Up until this floor, I would do them individually. Yes, one by one. Then someone had mentioned a fork some time ago, but I always felt like a fork had like the gaps in some forks are too, so kind of too big. So I didn't really want to use those. And then I might have heard somebody else use a comb or something like that. Anyway, I had like this comb, this old comb that was sitting there, and I kind of just snapped a piece off and ran that piece. And man, was this so much easier to create. So by having that comb and then using the pink foam, which I've mentioned before is a lot, it's softer than the green foam. The green foam to me is a little more dense, it's a little tougher. Like for example, when I'm magnetizing them, what I usually do is I imprint the magnet into the foam, then I cut around it. With the green foam, I have to really kind of push that magnet into the foam, or it won't mark. It will barely mark. So I like the pink foam for the fact that it's a lot softer that way. So those kind of details were easier to create using a little piece of a comb. So I was excited about that. The next thing I wanted to try out, like I've tried this before. So these older houses, generally behind the wallpaper is some sort of sheetrock type material. So the Sweeney Todd picture had kind of these where the chunk had fallen out. So in the past, I've seen people use different techniques. I've used different things where you kind of dig out the foam. What I did instead is I took, and let me just see if I can take this camera off my hand. I took this thing here. So I took Elmer's Craft Bond, which is an adhesive spray. This one's extra strength. And then I placed a wallpaper. So this paper comes from, this is scrapbook paper, and I got it from AC Moore. And so I glued everything down. Actually glued it with this. Always try new techniques, so kind of to ensure that the wallpaper stays on there. So I used this, let it dry a little bit. I also reinforced it with glue gun. Anyway, once I did that, I kind of formed the cracks out. I cut them out, and then what I did is I carefully sprayed this into into there, and I let the glue eat the foam. So by allowing the glue to eat the foam, it gave it this really cool effect, which I like very much. Joanne actually just went in and did a little more with the cracks, and they look a lot better. She kind of added those dark sections right there, and so they look good. Let me see. So this is also, the whole thing's foam board. This is basswood, kind of lining it up. This is just carved into the foam, you know, to kind of make it look like wood paneling. Again, this wallpaper is just from AC Moore, which is scrapbooking paper. They have a whole bunch of different things. Somebody asked me how I found it to, you know, how I found this in scale paper. It's funny, when I first bought it, I'm looking at it, I'm like, man, this is so out of scale. And then once I installed it and started to kind of beat it up a little bit, I was like, all right, now it's working. So once I kind of put the wallpaper on, cut these out, then I sprayed it with the adhesive. It kind of did that, painted it in black, went back with a elephant gray, I believe was the color, then came back with a lighter gray and kind of gave it a dry brush to kind of give it, you know, give it that depth by having a couple different colors in there. Then I took just took my little trusty brick, and I just banged into this, and then I took some paint and kind of watered the paint down, and then took a sponge and just started sponging this up. And then what happened is that it made the paper softer, and then as I rubbed my thumb across it, I was able to discolor some of the parts, and that was also a cool little effect. Used that doorknob that I've used before that I got at Michael's. That was actually my last one, so I now need to go get some more doorknobs. So what else is there to say about this? That's pretty much it. Went with, normally I don't do a lot of dials that have ceilings, or so what I did here is I just took two pieces of skinny foam and kind of glued them together, and did the same effect here as here to kind of give it that symmetry. Put a little roof window there, and that's pretty much it. And then what I did is to fog these windows out, I used this very same glue, and I fogged out these windows, and I fogged out that window. This is just vellum paper. This is vellum paper. The door is custom made from scratch. That window's custom made from scratch. That window's custom made from scratch. And then I used the notch technique so that it fell into place. And then when I placed the plastic, it just smoothly kind of, you know, fell into where it needed to fall into. So one of the things that I will say to the, and this is my homeboy Sam Scale, who's just in here, or excuse me, Sam Jackson, who's in here for scale. So you get an idea. It's a pretty big dial in terms of how deep it is. And he actually wanted to make sure, originally I told him it may be about 10 inches tall, because attics aren't that tall. But he requested it a little taller, because I think he's going to be using more 7-inch figures in this dial. And so that was pretty easy to do. And when this dial gets put, it's all magnetized. So let me take Sam out. I guess I'll break it apart, but it's all magnetized. Now so this wall here, I angled it so it's magnetized, but the angle's not 100% correct, but that extra magnet kind of puts it into place. But then that means that corner kind of opens up, so you just have to kind of play with it and squeeze it and adjust it so that you don't see as much light kind of coming from the back. But it's not too difficult. But this is actually two pieces, so you just have a bottom piece there and magnetized. Then you have this piece. I kind of like the way the walls came out, those drips. Then that back piece, the floor, and that's it. Alright, y'all, check out the pictures at the end of this video. Leave comments, questions. I'll get back to you guys as soon as possible. And I am out of here. Peace.